Hi, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Ross Benjamin of RBWins.com. Every Thursday, I'm joined by that gentleman on the other side of me, one of the finest handicappers in the country today, Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com. Doug, we're coming back from the NBA break, and I know that you were looking forward to this.
This has been, in some ways, Ross, this has been the longest week of my life, okay? Because I have waited, okay, for NBA, because normally, they used to come back on Tuesday, okay, like at All-Star break, come back 2 days later. I think it was last year they might have come back on Wednesday, but now it's been like a whole week, okay? And so, and why am I excited? Do I love the NBA that much? No, not necessarily. It's just the fact of the matter is I've been on an 18-6 run going in. So I want to get back to the action here. So we'll see. Look, right, but it's here. It's ready to go. What do we got? Depending on the team, 22, 23, 24 games left. So not really the second half, that's for sure. But, we're down the stretch more than anything else.
Sure. And I'd be excited about any sport that I'm 18-6 in the last 24. I'm not quite as good in the NBA, but I'm 14-6 with my last 20 in the NBA. So I went into the break with riding a good degree of momentum and looking forward to that. Doug, you just mentioned the last 22 games. Is there anything you look for down the stretch of the NBA regular season in terms of handicapping or certain items you may look at inside of your daily handicap when it comes to the final stretch of the regular season?
Yeah, well, one thing that I do for sure, Ross, is that typically, I go through there's not that many games most days, but I go through the entire board. So, in the NBA, but basically when I get to this point of the year, there are so many bad matchups. Okay. I can't get excited about them. And as opposed to you, I don't do as many totals, okay, as myself or as others do. I primarily focus on spreads. And so I eliminate those games, or at least try to, unless, for example, one team, you got two bad teams, but one team's really hot and the other team's really cold. That would be the exception to the rule. But, the lines have changed. That started back started this month in February. And so you're seeing, I guess they're fair, but, you can make the case and say, geez, there's no way that team can cover that spread. But, but at the same time, you go, man, this is a bad basketball team. How are they going to cover it? So you kind of go both ways. So I try to really just isolate and find, games that are competitive, not necessarily a point spread in number involved, to where I say, okay, it's got to be 5 or less or 6. No, nothing like that. Just looking for a competitive game and to see who has an edge. So that, for me, that's primarily it and what I look for in handicapping. So that means fewer games, fewer picks, but isolation plays more often.
Yeah, all makes sense, Doug. Again, you're right. The bottom line is you get real good teams against real bad teams. And you and me both know the odds makers prey on public perception. And as a result, down the stretch, when you get those types of situations, we have some overinflated lines. But then it's a matter of, the old adage is don't ask bad teams to do good things for you. So you really have to draw the line in terms of taking bad teams with big point spreads. When I look at, Doug, and I started doing this a few years ago after I did a study on this, down the final quarter of the regular season, I'm looking for two bad teams playing each other. And when I say that, it's not about the sides, it's about the totals. And look, at this point of the year, if you have a team that's 10, 20 games below 500, there's a good chance they're not good defensive teams at this point. I don't see them. If you're giving up 100, 110 or more points per game and your field goal percentage defense is somewhere around 47 to 48%, well, you know what? That's not about to change real quickly. And if anything, when two teams like that are playing one another, they don't have to necessarily be mathematically eliminated, but they're eliminated in reality. There's no way they're going to make the postseason unless they go on a 19-3 run, and that's unforeseen to happen when teams are that bad. So I look to use the overs in games like that. Now, having said that, it's not an automatic play. You still have to do your homework, and it still has to make sense. And I got a game today that I'm going to use for Friday that's applicable to exactly what I'm talking about, Doug. So, again, teams in those situations, two bad teams playing one another, they play a lot more freely, and it becomes, believe it or not, more entertaining basketball. Now, it's not always going to happen that way, but I look for a reason, a starting point with those teams playing one another down the stretch. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it certainly does to me, Ross. I tell you what, and you've whetted my appetite so much. I tell you what, let's change it up today. You go first with the free picks today.
You're putting all the pressure on me.
I want you. I'm excited to hear what you got to say here. So
you're breaking up a successful venture here. I mean, you're jinxing us. I mean, we've gone 7-1 with our last 4 videos, including our college basketball earlier this week, in which we went 2-0 on Tuesday games. And Doug is 7-0. His last 7 and 9-1 in his last 10 on these free pick videos, folks. So that's hard to keep up with, And me,
I just learned something about Ross Benjamin I didn't know, and by the way, I'm exactly the same way. I just hadn't thought of it, but I am superstitious. So if I'm going to agree with you, Ross. We got something good going here. Why break it up?
All right.
Okay. So we'll do it this way. So I'll go first with my free pick.
Take it away, my friend. Take it away.
Right, ready to go here. Miami and the New York Knicks. Now, the New York Knicks went into the All-Star break 1-7 straight up and against the spread. And for those of you that haven't paid attention to Coach Tom Thibodeau's history, he typically goes into a team, he turns it around, is an excellent person to bring in to, let's just say, change up what's going on in a franchise. But after a year or two, things start to go sideways. Why? Thibodeau's a hard driving guy. He's a 24/7 push guy. And maybe he's a little bit softer than what he was at Minnesota, Chicago, but not much. Well, look what's happened to this team this year. They've gone from being a team that some thought could have made the East Finals last year to a team that now is outside the playoffs looking in. And that, now we're talking 10 teams in the East. That's not easy to do. So that being the case, so I think that this team's in a world of trouble. Okay, just overall. Now, conversely, we have Miami. Miami is tied with Chicago for the best record in the Eastern Conference. An interesting point here, Ross, is that only 3 players for Miami have played as many as 50 games this year. Okay, that's how many injuries that they've had. But of the guys that played 50, none of them are their top 4 scorers. Yet the Heat, 33, 24, and 2 against the spread. They're in the top 5 in fewest points allowed and field goal percentage defense. So if they get healthy as they're coming back now and they can stay healthy, they could actually win the East in terms of the regular season and have the top seed. So I'm looking at 2 teams really here that are going in opposite directions. And I can back it up further with this information. Miami is 14-3, playing against a team with a losing record in the second half of the season since last year. This season, the New York Knicks, are 2-10 against the spread at home, playing against a team with a winning record. So, Ross, I got no problem laying the 4 or 4.5, whatever you happen to find with Miami at the New York Knickerbockers.
Yeah, I think Miami's worth if you're a futures player, which I'm not, and I don't believe you are either, Doug. But if you're a futures player, you want to take a look at Miami to win the East. Because Doug makes some good points, 33-24, yet they haven't been fully healthy all year where they have all their pieces together at the same time. And when it comes to postseason time, players play through injury. So, and I also think, you want to rest your players if they're a little iffy health-wise down the stretch as well. So this could be a team that's sitting there playing possum come postseason time, Doug.
Yeah, they're in good shape. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's redundant, But remember, in the history of the NBA, only 2 teams that were not a 1, 2, or 3 seed in their conference has won an NBA title. Okay. So always keep that in mind.
Only 2 teams.
Only 2 teams that were outside the top 3.
Do you know the answer to that question?
I actually do. It was the 1969 Boston Celtics. That was the last year of their extended run. They were a 6th seed that year. And the other one, I believe, was I could be wrong on the year here, but it was the second time the Houston Rockets went back to back, and they were a 6th seed, and they had a number of injuries that year. But in their last 20 games, which is about where we're at right now, they got everybody back. They got healthy, and they went on to win it. And it's not like they were terrible, because their season-ending record was 48-34. Not great, but not terrible either. And so, so those are the 2 teams. It's one of those things, Ross, I have committed to memory.
Yeah, and it's something that's worth discussing on occasion. Rudy T. Those were the days where he was the head coach. God rest his soul. And back in 1969, it was the last year the Celtics, like you said, went on that. I think it was 7 straight NBA championships or something like that. Or it was
11 out of 13 for sure. I know that
high degree of success.
Yep.
Bill Russell was the player coach for the NBA Boston Celtics.
At the end.
Something we're never going to see again.
No.
I can guarantee it. So anyway, could you see some of these guys, these star players now trying to be an NBA head coach? It would be.
I don't think they'd want to, first of all.
Yeah, but they'd be calling isolation plays for themselves all day long. Anyway, Houston at Orlando. This is exactly what I was talking about here, Doug. 2 terrible teams record-wise. And both have played high-scoring games of late. As a matter of fact, I don't want to bore you with all statistics, folks, but this shows you that when you have games of this nature, you just don't say, well, Ross says when 2 bad teams play each other down the stretch, you automatically go. No, you don't automatically go over the total. There has to be a lot of supporting evidence that makes it a play for you. And I've found plenty here, Doug. I mean, Houston has gone over the total in their last 4 games. In those 4 contests, a combined 248.3 points were scored per game. The Houston Rockets have also gone over the total in 6 straight contests. Whenever there's been a total of 225 or more, in those 6 contests, averaged 238 points per contest. Houston has allowed 120 points or more in 6 of their last 7 games, and the Rockets have allowed opponents to shoot 51.2% or better in their last 11 games. Boy, oh boy, I don't know what Matador defense is, but if there is Matador defense, Houston certainly fills the bill. Orlando, on the other hand, they've gone 6-0 over the total in their last 6, whenever there's been a total of 223 or more. And those games averaged 237.3 points scored per contest. Orlando, similar to Houston, they've allowed 118 points or more in 8 of their last 9 games. And since the beginning of the 2019-2020 season, these teams have played 5 times, and all 5 have gone over the total. So I'm going with Houston Orlando game to go over 228.5 in the NBA on Friday. And Doug likes the Miami Heat to lay the 4.5 points at Madison Square Garden in New York over the Knicks. Any thoughts, Doug?
Well, Ross, we're right back, to getting the NBA back. So that's a good thing. And I would like to add, and I'm from you often say this, but I'll take a turn at it, is that we appreciate everybody watching these videos.
Yeah.
Okay. Our last video was far and away our best basketball video in terms of viewership. So we appreciate that. And then also you can subscribe to the channel. It takes almost nothing to do. Okay. It's free, as Ross frequently says. So I think we try to add some value. The picks that Ross and I have been giving out have been doing quite well for free. And the ones that he and Chip have been giving out also have done extremely well recently. So, it's worth your trouble to take a couple of seconds or however many seconds it takes to fill this out and subscribe to this channel. I think it'll be well worth it to you to follow.
Yeah, we're a combined 13-3 between myself, Doug, and Chip on our last 8 videos. So that's winning, folks. And everybody likes a winner, and our viewers are going up and up. So anyway, Doug, what do you got going on? You foresee going on in the upcoming weekend? And also tell the folks how well you're doing in the NBA.
Yeah, well, as I said at the start, nice 18-6 run. I have already isolated a big play for Friday. I have one for Thursday, but by the time this is seen, well, the window will be pretty close to ending, depending on when you see it. But for sure, on Friday, I got a big play. Haven't looked quite at the weekend. Finally got college basketball turned around recently. Had gone through a tough stretch, first to admit it. And so having some optimistic points of view, had some winners on Wednesday, some nice winners. And I think that now I'm going to be able to turn the tide, get some things going. Things are starting to make a little more sense. Okay. We all go through those periods where you look at the slate sometime and you look at it, it's just like looking at a blank piece of paper. It doesn't work. Now starting to come around. So I'm excited for the upcoming weekend. And hey, after this is the last quote unquote full weekend of college basketball where everybody plays, because some of the conference tournaments start next week. So, we're getting to that time of year, and Tuesday is March. So that let the madness begin. And the NHL, still had a nice winner, a fortunate one. I actually, Ross, won in overtime yesterday.
Hey, so how about that?
It's just it proves there is a God, by the way. And so we go along with that. So so Ross, I'm fired up. I'm excited to get another weekend of sports betting information out there and knock down some winners. What about you, Ross?
Yeah, I mean, Doug, by the way, one of the best NHL handicappers I've come across over the last 2 decades. And we joke about the overtime because as well as he's done in the NHL over the last 2 decades, he's had a little bit of tough luck in these overtime games. Well, your record in overtime, you told me at one time, and this isn't indicative of how good he does in the NHL, but just imagine if he had a little bit of luck in overtime.
Well, it's not just the NHL. So I'll just say this. I do have it on a piece of paper that's close here, but I'll just say this. Since 2010, I am 80 games below 500. Okay, in all extra time. Okay, so no matter whether you name the sport, that includes everything. So I just, as I've said to Ross off air and stuff like that, if I win 80 in a row, okay, that would mean I have average luck.
Okay? Yeah, and again, folks, I don't want you to be misled because we're joking about this, because with a little bit of luck, this guy, his record could be absolutely phenomenal because it's good already. Take that little piece of paper, Doug, put it in a safe deposit box, and don't take it out until you make up those 80 games in overtime. Anyway, the NBA, like I touched upon before, 14-6 with my last 20. That's good for 70%. If you happen to see this video on Thursday evening, I do have a Thursday night 5-star ATS winning side on the Portland and Golden State game. So on Friday, I'll have 3 NBA picks up for sale. And folks, college basketball, the last 2 Saturdays, which we always look forward to, those big slates in college basketball on Saturday. I've gone 9-3 the last 2 Saturdays, including both 10-star top play winners. And college basketball, nice run going on right now, folks. 11-3 with my last 14 and 22-8 with my last 30. And all sports run, how about 57-33 with my last 90 picks since January 28th. That's good for 63%. So a lot of good. I love talking about streaks, Doug. It's, we have to always, they say we're not bragging if we could back it up. And if we don't promote ourselves, folks, nobody else is going to jump aboard. You know how well we're doing on these free pick videos. Yet as soon as we have a losing day, somebody always chimes in and makes some kind of story up that we're losers and we hit 30% of our picks and these guys never win. So you know what? If you have those types of complaints after a losing free pick day, reach in your pocket. You could find Doug at DocSports.com. You could find me at RBWins.com. Both of us have daily packages, weekly, monthly, and annual packages up for sale. And Doc Sports, they've been in business 50 years. And there's a reason for that. People just don't last that long in this industry unless you're successful. So not only Doug, a lot of great handicappers over at DocSports.com, and I'm a little biased. I think Doug is the best of the bunch with no disrespect to anybody else. So again, DocSports.com for Doug, RBWins.com for Ross, and we'll be back with a Monday taping for our Tuesday college basketball edition. Let's keep the winners rolling 7-1 with our last 4 videos. Me and Doug. Doug, how about 7-0, 9-1 in the last 10 on these free pick videos? Until the next time, good luck and God bless, folks.